Assembled rocket delivery to the Hab Hangar in Cosmodrome, Part 2. Hello everybody and welcome back to Opafet Gaming and another exciting episode of SnowRunner. You're listening to the Opafet. Today we're going to try and deliver the assembled rocket to the Hab Hangar. We're now in Cosmodrome in Amur, and I say we're going to attempt because there's a bunch of pitfalls along the way and you never know what's going to happen. This is going to be one tough delivery, which is the reason why I chose the Avenhorn A15. Now, we could have picked several different trucks. Could have picked the Kenworth 963. Now, the only prerequisite for this job is that it needed a high saddle. Now the trailer is really long, so a long rocket on top of that, and I figured I want to use a truck that's got a little bit of a shorter wheelbase, thus making the whole caravan a little bit shorter. Will it help? Well, you be the judge. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Anyhow, I like to have a little shorter truck, and we just acquired the Avenhorn A15 for our fleet as our newest truck, so we're going to try and put it through its paces and let's see what it can do. Now, it's worth re-mentioning, not just for myself, but anybody who's watching, that when you're driving in Amur, any road that's not covered by snow, such as the one that we're on, consider it to be an ice road, because it usually is. Now, the Kenworth would not have had any chains on it, but we can put the chains on the Avenhorn. The Avenhorn also has a maintenance cabin, sleeper, I don't know what you would call it, on the back that holds another 300 liters of fuel. We've already got 400 in the tank, and then we've got saddle containers stuck up on the bumper that hold another 160. You got, I think, four jugs on either side. So we got plenty of fuel. We're not going to run out. That's not going to be an issue. No, the issues are going to be in the territory that we got to cover. But you will see that as we come along. Now, one thing you really have to watch out for in this journey is the off-track. That trailer is going to present a lot of trouble to us as we go along, because the turns that we got to make, some of them are fairly tight, and you're going to be dragging it along the side of the rocks, or an electrical pole, or a light, or whatever. But we're going to be dragging it, that's for sure, because we're going to get it over to the other side. Now, in Cosmodrome, the map is sort of separated into two sections. The Hab Hangar is on the other side, and there's a body of water that runs through the middle of it. And there's really only two decent places where you can cross over. One is in the east and one is in the west. Now, we're going to go to the one in the east side of the map, and it will require us to go over some ice, through some ice, and it's going to be fairly difficult. But the one on the passageway on the west side has got so many tight turns that I don't think you could do it with a regular trailer, let alone as one as large as this one. So this is why we're picking the east side and the ice. It's going to be exciting and a little bit scary at the same time. Now, our very first problem that we're going to run into is just up ahead here, where we have a big dip in the road, and it's a mud pit in the bottom. So I'm going to attempt to take the truck a little wide right here and go over the snow here and stay out of that pit. You're still going to dip down, but not quite as bad as if you were in the pit. So hopefully this way will work out for us as we're trying to drag it through here. But I tell you, it's a tough go. That trailer by itself was very heavy when we had to move it to bring it to the loading site, and as you can tell, look at how long that trailer is. It's really difficult to even try and get the truck to go up the other side. Plus, you gotta worry about it tipping. With a trailer with that much weight on the back, if it flips over to its side, it'll take the truck with it, as we've experienced in part 1 of this job of Reach for the Stars. So as we're coming around the corner here, you can see that the road kind of leans to the left, so you got to make a tight turn and stay on the left-hand side. Obviously, we can't try and come across on that top side. But so far, that's not so much of a problem. The Avenhorn can do this, you know. So as we're coming up along here, we're going to be hanging a right up ahead, not where the tracker is laid down, but a little bit further up ahead. So every once in a while, it seems like the trailer might be getting stuck, but we're not having too much trouble so far. But I'm sure that will change with time. Now, as we're coming here, just up ahead, we're going to have to make a turn. So I'm running this in the high range of the low gear. When you're running in that gear, if the motor is not laboring, usually you will use a little bit less fuel. You know, it'll go a little slower too, but that's okay, because speed is not something that we're looking for. If speed is what you want, then you got to play a racing game. This game will not satisfy you if you want speed. This game is slow and methodical. So as we're coming through here, we got to go right through this mud pack right to the end there, and then at the end we're going to take a left-hand turn and go into the bush as we climb out of the mountain towards the ice level passage that I was telling you about. We'll see that soon enough. Now, as we go through that passage down towards ice level, I had left my Kenworth 963 down at the bottom, and I had left them in the middle of the road, so I had to move them out of the way. But we'll get to that in a second. So as we're coming up here now, you know you're going to be turning left at the top here. So make sure, and there again, like I said before, you got to pay a very special attention to the off-track on this trailer. Now, I don't want to go right down to the bottom where the mud is, because the road kind of tilts again a little bit, so we're going to cross over on the snow here, and we're going to be okay. As long as we don't get stuck in the snow, but that's okay too, because there are lots of trees around that we can hook onto and winch ourselves out, you know. So as we get just past these two stumps up ahead here, we got to go a little bit to the right so we can pull this trailer past that tree on the left. There again is the off track. You gotta watch that. It's a narrow little track here down to ice level, but the Avenhorn seems pretty capable. It's got lots of power to pull them through there. There we go. We don't worry too much about the little trees. If they get in your way, you just run them over. Don't worry about it. Now, every once in a while through this video, there's a little stuttered clip where I stopped the video and took a little piece out because of accidentally hitting the wrong button and getting a menu to come up. So I just thought I'd clean the video up so you wouldn't have to look at that. See, you can see the Kenworth down below, and I just thought I'd fast forward so I'd save you the time of watching me pull the Kenworth to the side. Because as we come down to the ice level here, when I cross over, the first time I tried to cross over, I went a little bit too far to the left, and I got stuck in there for a long, long time. There again, I just clipped it out of there because I didn't want to put you through what I had to go through. So, well, as we get to the Kenworth here, we're going to fuel up from his tank. We might as well keep our tank full as we can, and we changed the time so that we could see what we're doing, and then as we come down into the ice we promptly get stuck. So we had to jockey back and forth a few times. We pulled ourselves backwards on the Kenworth, and we finally managed to pull it over towards the right a little bit, enough that the Avenhorn finally grabbed a hold of something solid. Now this is the difficult part here. We gotta have something solid under our tires to climb up over top, and then we can drag the trailer over that little gap because he's got 5 axles on it. Oh, but we almost slid over and into the water. We got lucky on that one. Now all we have to do is it's a little bit more than all. We got to try and drag it across these rocks because this is the only way you're going to get across. There is no other way for this trailer to get there. We take a little bit of damage over there. Now the Avenhorn is pretty good for damage. He doesn't take a lot. And we managed to get it through. Boy, I tell you, I was a little worried that I was not going to be able to make it through there. You know? Just for a little while. Well, for the amount of time that I was stuck in the ice anyhow. So as we're coming up around here, you got to remember your winch is your best friend, especially in a task like this. Because I tell you, you get stuck quite often, and if you don't know how to use your winch yet, or you're not very good at it, this job will help you get a little bit better, get a little bit of practice on winching your truck out of different situations. So as we're coming out of it, a lot of times, you know, you just have to give it a few seconds and the truck will pull itself through whatever you're in. But of course there are those moments when you get stuck and you're going to have to throw the winch out and pull yourself forward. Now as we're coming up ahead here, you can see the road going up. Now that's not the way we got to go. We got to go to the left. Okay? So going to the left, there is a electrical pole light just on the corner on the left-hand side there. And I was debating on going on the inside, but I was worried about the snow being maybe a little bit too deep. And if it's too deep, you might get stuck in there for a long time. So I didn't want to do that. So I thought, okay, we'll just go around it. And in that way, you know, hopefully we'll be okay. It should make it. But there again, you know, you got to worry about that off track. And I thought I had taken a wide enough turn, but apparently not. As you can tell, that trailer is going to pull, it's going to drag against that pole, and it's just not going to make it. So what to do? We're going to back her up a little bit maybe, and see if we can pull this truck and the trailer a little bit closer to the rocks, and maybe she'll straighten out just enough. Now I don't know if that would work in real life, but this is SnowRunner. So we're going to give it one more yank, and as whoa, I tell you, this truck is fast becoming my favorite truck in the game. This might be the new king of SnowRunner, you know? I don't know if the Kenworth could have done that. Especially you're sitting on an ice road right now, right? So you got to pull this trailer past that pole up an ice road. Use your winch to break it free. Ooh, hit the rocks a little bit, that's okay. And we're out of the mess. We're around that corner. Well, that was a tough corner. Now this road, it's got a few turns from side to side, and it's got some holes in it, and you got to be aware, and you got to be careful, because you cannot go through the deep part of some of these here holes, because they're just like mud pits in the bottom. So I always try to go a little bit to one side or the other. This one, unfortunately, I slid right into it. Luckily, I was almost through it already by the time I started sliding in. So we got through that one okay. But there's more to come as we're pulling up ahead. Now you can see that body of water that runs all the way from one end of the map to the other. And there, like I said, you know, there's not a lot of places you can cross. Now we got another one of these here little mud pits, and you couldn't stay on the top side because the road was too angled from right to left. So we had to go on this side, and that got us stuck. So now we're gonna have to pull ourselves forward with the winch or break it loose one way or another, because he just doesn't seem to want to climb out of that little hole. That's okay. We're gonna give it another shot. No, it's just not gonna work. So we're gonna try and pull from the trailer, if we can get it attached to that pole. And if we can break it loose and get the tractor out of the mud, there we go, then the trailer will follow. There we go. Wow, what an absolutely awesome game. I tell you, this particular task has probably been my toughest task to date in SnowRunner. And I've got quite a bit of the game done, so there's been some hard ones, but I think this has been the hardest. And as we're coming over here, we got to miss that pit, but we want it to be a little bit more on the left-hand side because it's off track, obviously. And then you see the road over here is angled from right to left again. You got to keep that in mind because, boy, like I told you before, you don't want that trailer flipping on you. Now, I think that in some of these here jobs, especially this one, speed will kill you. If you go too fast and you're at a place where the road's angled too much, if you go slow, a lot of times you can keep your balance and keep the trailer straight, even though it's angling off. But if you go too fast, I think that's when you hit a little rock or something, and if you're at an angle already, it'll just tip you over. So keep that in mind, you know, take it nice and easy. This, like I said before, this is not a game where you gotta go fast. This is a game where you gotta take it easy and you gotta complete the mission. That's the object, not to get there as quick as you can. Now, this part is not too bad. You just got some boulders on the road, and there again, the Avenhorn really doesn't pay much attention to him. He just goes over top of him, and the only thing you really have to worry about is the off track on the trailer, that he's not dragging on the side of the rocks, because when he does, he gets tipped to the side a little bit like that too. So keep that in mind, that you try and keep that trailer in the right spot. Now, they don't give you a lot of room, which makes it a little bit more difficult. But anyhow, as we're going to come up along here, we're going to go straight, and we get up to the top a little ways longer, and then it's going to turn, and we're going to hit the fuel station. As you can see, we're down to 190 liters out of the 400. Now, I did say we had extra fuel, and we do, but you can see how thirsty this truck gets. He gets pretty thirsty when he's dragging something really heavy. So keep that in mind if you're doing a job where there are no fuel stations, that you put out either a truck or a fuel trailer so that you can fuel up halfway along. You know, that is if you're not quite sure if you've got enough fuel for the whole journey. Now it's just a slog to try and get through this snow here until we get to that muddy area. Might have a little bit more traction up there. I'm trying to throw the winch out at that pole straight in front of me, but I wasn't quite close enough yet. There we go. Now we're close enough. So that helps quite a bit when you got the winch on a pole and you're giving it full throttle at the same time. Yeah, I thought I was going to go a little faster than that, so I let the winch go, but I was wrong. We're still going fairly slow, but we're almost through it. Now we got to cut back, and we got to be careful that we don't tip that trailer over. Here we go. Now we got a little bit of traction again. We got to go up a slight little incline here, but you know, anything that's a little bit out of the ordinary is difficult because the trailer is so heavy and the rocket's so heavy. So it makes it a little bit tougher, but boy, I tell you, very rewarding when you finally deliver it in one piece. Now, I flipped the trailer by itself. I flipped the trailer with the rocket on top of it, you know, in part one of this task. But every time that you have a problem, if you have your rescue vehicles like your TUS, your favorite scout / rescue vehicle / mobile fuel station, He can always come out and give you a hand and straighten things out and get you back on your way like he usually does. And that's okay. You know, it's all part of the game. You got to be able to figure out how to get out of a jam when you're in one. My worst part of my jams are the ones that I dread is when I go somewhere and I got a trailer in behind me like I do right now and I went the wrong way. How do I back it up? How do I turn it around? That's my biggest fear. But we don't have to worry about that today because we've pre-scouted the area. We know exactly where we got to go. We do not have to back up. We do have a few more tight spots. We gotta pull this thing in between two railway crossing poles with the lights, and they are fairly close together, so they're not going to give you a lot of room there. But we're not up to that point yet. We've still got a little bit of a tough spot coming up here. Anywhere where there's a little bit of mud and a turn, you know you're going to have problems. So here I'm just going to throw my winch out. Now it's going to grab those little trees on the side, on the left-hand side. But I just want something to just break it free and keep it rolling, because when you're in deep snow or mud with any truck or vehicle, as long as you're moving, don't stop. As long as you're moving, keep going. So I didn't want to have to stop and hook the winch up or something, so I just throw it out. And that makes it a little bit easier. Now I think we're going to get stuck in here somewhere. And she's just not moving anymore. And then you have no choice. So I just hook it onto the trailer in the nearest pole, and that will pull you through. Now as you climb just up this little hill here, this little incline, and it turns to the left, it's also angled out to the right. So whenever I get to an angled road, when it angles from side to side, I always try to drive on the low side, because if you're on the high side and you start sliding, you're going to be on the low side quick enough, and you might as well start out there, because that's usually where it is the flattest or least of an angle. And then of course they put a little bit of garbage on the road for you, so you get to drive over trees and boulders and try and avoid them. But there again, like I said before, you know, sometimes you just got to ignore what's on the road and just go, you know. And it'll take it right over top of the rocks. It'll take it right over top of the trees, and you're better off keeping the optimum driving line available for your truck rather than worry about the rocks. Because he'll pull over the rock. That's not a problem. So we got the fuel station on the left-hand side here, and we are down to 73 liters, and that was from when we crossed the ice, because we fueled up from the Kenworth. So we haven't gone that far and used over 300 liters of fuel. So like I said, when this guy is towing and he's got a heavy job to do, boy, I tell you, he gets really thirsty. But with this case, with this particular task, there is lots of fuel around, so we don't have to worry too much. And we're getting close now to the Hab Hangar. We're getting really close. So we're gonna get this job done, and then we're gonna get ready. I don't know what the next step would be, but I'm sure that they're gonna have more work for us to do to launch this rocket once they put it together. So that's going to be exciting to see. I'm really looking forward to that, but that's probably another few contracts away. So, but we're going to try and get that all done in the next little while and get them up here so I can share those videos with you, and you might enjoy those. So as we're coming along here, then we're going to turn down to the right, and that's where the railway crossing is that I was telling you about. You'll see them in a minute. Boy, I tell you, this Avenhorn is really pulling through for me. I don't know if any of the other trucks would be able to do this. If you know of any truck that could have done this kind of a job, leave us a note in the comment section below. I'd like to know, and I'd love to try out some other trucks. I've tried a few, and I wasn't too impressed with some of them. Some are really good, and when they're really good, I keep them in my fleet, so I keep them available for whenever I need to use them. Because I'm a firm believer in the right tool for the right job, which means the right truck for the right job. Okay? Now here we go. See, that's pretty tight over there. Now I'm pulling it to the left, and I end up hitting that electrical pole. And you can see it there. We're stuck on it a little bit, but I had to go as close as I could, because otherwise I would not have been able to line it up to go in between these here railroad crossing poles. So anyhow, we got it through there, and at the bottom on the right where that intersection is, we got to go to the right. Now, whenever you have an intersection, I know we got the off track, but we got lots of room there, and the intersections are usually full of mud and debris and other stuff. So I'd like to try and stay out of that if I can. So I just cut the intersection short, try and get by the worst of the mud part. You know, eventually you do have to go into it if it's long enough, and just try and do your best. There are no rocks in your way, and you know, there's not much that'll stop you from going up here. And if you look up ahead, we're going to be going up the hill again, and another ice road. But like I said, we got the Avenhorn with chains on. Ice is not a problem. So that's a really, really big plus. So that if you have the con of him using a lot of fuel, well, we can live with that. We can work around it. When you have the capabilities to go up this kind of a steep hill with a truck, pulling this kind of a heavy load, and you don't slip, that's the truck I want to use, you know. So as we're coming up here now, yeah, she just chugs up there without a problem. We're getting very close to finishing this job. Boy, I tell you, very rewarding when we're done. Very satisfying job. And we're still going to try and keep it straight. Go from side to side a little bit. And up at the top here, we got to turn to right again as we'll be turning into the Hab Hangar area soon here. And just a little ways up the road here. I'm still running in the high range of the low gear, which is the other reason why he's going so slow. But for me, that's actually a good thing, because I find that I start driving a little bit too fast sometimes, and when you do that, like I said, you're going to get into trouble. So by keeping it in the high range of the low gear, he can only go so fast. He won't go any faster. So that kind of holds the Opafit back a little bit, which sometimes we need. And as we're coming up around the corner here, you will see the facility. There we go. And soon it will be delivered, and then we'll be on to our next job. Absolutely fantastic task. I think that the Avenhorn A15, I think, is my favorite truck now, with the Kenworth pulling a close second, maybe a 1A and 1B. But I think he's the new king of SnowRunner, because I think the only downfall is his fuel usage. Everything else is just absolutely wonderful. Well, this was a great video. I really enjoyed this task. I hope you enjoyed it and got some tips and tricks out of it. And I hope that you'll come back and join us for the liftoff. Until then, you have yourself a great day. You've been running in the snow in an Avenhorn A15 with me, the Opafit.
A 3 total.